5 mistakes almost every single wildlife photographer makes. Most of the time we are, well, not most of the time, all the time, we are human, and so we react to things. And that's the biggest mistake wildlife photographers make, is they react to something that's happened, but it's already happened. And so they are always one step behind. They're always reacting to something that's already in the past. And so we're always playing a little bit of catch up. And that happens, like, for example, the bird ruffles its feathers. We've missed that. It's bird ruffles its feathers. What comes next? We've missed that as well. And so a little bit of like what my video mentioned before last week was anticipation of what comes next. And what comes next makes a huge difference. So stop chasing the animal. Not only is it bad for photography, it's bad for ethics and bad for wildlife in general. So we don't want to chase anything, and we don't want something to behave unnaturally because we made it so. And so stop, watch, learn, and predict what's going to happen next, and that's going to make a huge difference to your photographs. This one was of a red deer during the deer rut. Now, I stood far enough away. If I had followed it, it'd probably get away from me or move in opposite direction to me. So me standing waiting for it to come is what allowed me to get this head-on shot. Another example is this fox that's fallen asleep in autumn. This is probably one of my favorite shots, and it really goes to show, and one of the things I really like is when wildlife is so used to you being around and so comfortable with you being there that they fall asleep. Another one, this one is where you don't follow the wildlife around, but you anticipate what happens and you anticipate what comes next. I showed you this on the previous YouTube video, and if you try and capture this image without knowing that it's coming, it's probably going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible. Don't ignore your backgrounds. I see this all the time. People ignore their backgrounds as not as a rule, but because they are unaware of it, or they a little bit laxy-daisy, and so that comes out in their photographs. And I promise you, the old typical a gull with a post sticking out the head of it, you don't see that when you take the photo. You probably don't see that, but you show it to somebody, it's the first thing they see. And it's really annoying when you're showing a photo to somebody that you may be proud of, and the first thing the person sees is your flaws. And backgrounds are part of the picture. The camera doesn't care. The camera will take the photo no matter what, and it will display everything the camera sees. So learn to see a little bit like the camera. Anticipate what you got. Sometimes you can't help it. Sometimes there is stuff in the way that you just can't move. And so you say, okay, that's in the way. I acknowledge it. I am going to act in a different way so as to move that into place or move that into my shot. And that makes a huge difference. Be aware of what you're doing. So seeing something in the background, whether it's there, whether you can do something about it or not, is awareness that it's there and taking action as a result. Couple of examples of what's in your background. So if you look at this image, you can see there's a bright red and a black dot in the background, and what those are people actually walking. And I waited a few minutes and the scene changed completely. So when I put these side by side, a few minutes has gone by and the deer looks slightly different, but you can also see the background is completely different. So those two obstacles are no longer there. I moved ever so slightly as well, but not much. I dropped a little bit lower. This is one from South Africa, and I took a burst of these because I wanted to catch this cuckoo flying. It's not a very common cuckoo to see flying and to capture it flying. So I took a burst of shots, but this really explains quite nicely your background and how it affects your picture. You can see here it's almost no detail. As you step along, so the detail starts to come into the bird, and so you can see a little bit. And as the background changes to pure green, you get a lot more color in the bird. Background makes a huge difference, not only to what it is that's in the background, but also to the amount of detail shown in your subject because of it. This is one of those where you can't actually change much of what's in the background. I saw there was a car parked in front of where we were parked, but I knew this lion was fast asleep and I wanted to try and get it with its eyes opened, lying in this position, because it just creates a different kind of image. Initially, I tried and get as much of the car out of the way. Eventually, I gave up and I thought, you know what, I'm not going to get the car out of the way. I'm just going to take the photo of the lion with as much of the car in it, because the car's in it. There's nothing I can do about it. And I'll deal with it afterwards in post. And so I waited for this shot and I got it with the lion with his eyes open, lying flat like that, and it really looks like one of those shots that says I'm watching you. And then later on in post, I cropped it to a point where this is what I wanted, or this is what I'm happy with out of that shot. And so that's how that shot became to be this shot. Relying on autofocus way too much. So we all have fancy cameras nowadays and we all rely on autofocus way more than we should. And the downside to that is that sometimes we miss a shot because we are too busy trying to force autofocus to focus on what we want. And all equipment has limitations, whether it be a fancy camera or fancy lens, it doesn't really matter. All your equipment, everybody has limitations, and autofocus is one of those that almost doesn't matter how good your camera is, autofocus can't capture every single little shot, and sometimes you have to manual focus. I'm going to show you a couple of shots that were not possible, and for various reasons, and I'll explain. The first one is of this barn owl. This was in South Africa, and the guy with the spotlight, this is reasonably dark already, with the spotlight he showed us as an owl in here. But as I was trying to focus, the autofocus would always stick to the edges. This is quite a small little hole, but the autofocus would always stick to the edges of the hole and really never really got to what I wanted, which was the owl. So in manual focus, I adjusted it slightly. The guy was also erratic with his light. I was obviously not the only one on this trip or on the safari. And so because he kept talking, the light was on and off and on and off. This was something that I focused, and then when the light came on, I took the shot and I got the shot. The next one is of a Iberian lynx. This was photographed this year in Spain, and I've always wanted this kind of shot. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but this is the kind of shot that I've always wanted. It's hiding and it's stalking something from behind the plants. Again, autofocus would always try and catch one of the plants as the focus point. The only way I could get this, you can see the plants which are just in front of it, are actually out of focus. And the only way I could get this was with manual focus. Very similar to the previous one, but this is in India this year in February, and there was a tiger resting in the tall grasses, and this was the only way I could get a photo of it. Again, the autofocus would catch the little grasses around the tiger, not the tiger itself. Manual focus was the only way to go. Number 4, I'm not sure where you get it from, but freezing the action all the time. And it's probably from somebody taught you how to do this, or somebody said this is the right thing. There's no such thing as the right shutter speed. I had somebody the other day in one of my teaching sessions ask me, what is the right shutter speed? And I was like, what is the right shutter speed for what? What are you trying to do? So there's no such thing as the right shutter speed. But we always believe that having everything frozen is the way to go. And having everything frozen in wildlife photography is definitely not the way to go. There's a lot of images these days that you use shutter speed creatively, and you should strive to do that as well. It's not always simple, it's not always the easiest thing to do, but it is something to aim towards. So when you say what is the correct shutter speed, you're thinking what is the correct shutter speed to freeze the action. There's no such thing. Don't always freeze the action. Try something creative. Yes, you're going to miss a lot of shots while you're learning. It doesn't matter. It's part of your, let's say it's school fees. It's stuff that you spending on yourself. This one shows a little bit of what I talk about, not always keeping the exact shutter speed or the highest shutter speed in order to freeze everything. So this is in Skoma in Wales, and the only way to show just how fast these guys fly, these puffins, is to exaggerate the blur that it shows on the wings. And this was one way to do it. So this is at 1/200th of a second, and it really shows the blur of the wings. A lot of misses because the bird is also flying, so trying to get the wings blurred and the bird in focus is a little bit difficult, but the results are quite cool. Another one says try and get everything in focus. So this is another old way of thinking. And here, for example, the eyes of the fox are really what's interesting. So why not have that as the main part of the subject? The rest of the fox, which is in the picture, is actually out of focus and completely void of any sort of detail. In fact, it just creates the color in the background. And why not? The image stands out for the eyes and the reflection of the eyes, and that's what I wanted to capture. So something a little bit different again. And this one is an impala. It wasn't actually running, and it shows it as running at a hell of a pace. It was actually walking, jogging. And this again goes to show how reducing your shutter speed a lot, in this case 1/15th of a second, really produces something completely different. So again, not the highest shutter speed in order to freeze the action. You pan with the subject and you get exaggerated motion in the legs, and that's what you're looking for. I get a lot of people who always want to photograph in good weather. They say the weather is nice, let's go out and photograph. But is that the only time you go and photograph? Do me a favor, photograph in bad weather. And when the weather is inclement or bad, as we say it is probably some of the nicest shots you'll get. So bad weather, whether it be rain, snow, which is probably one of the nicest ones to photograph in, mist, fog, all kinds of stuff, is gonna produce some of the best results you'll ever have. And photographing in bad weather or in not so great light is probably a little bit more distant for sure, but it's probably gonna improve your photography no end. And I really hate this one. Only photograph when there's good weather. When you're on safari, do you only photograph in good weather? I hope not. You photograph whenever it's possible, right? And whenever they say, let's go and photograph. And that's what you do. Photograph no matter what the weather is. Photograph in bad weather. Photographing horrible weather, in this case the snow, can really create something spectacular. Not only that, it allows you to play with different settings and different parts of your image. So for example, this was photographed this year in Norway, and you can see the snow is falling quite heavily around this. It's a white-tailed eagle, a young one, and it's falling quite heavily. And so I played with my shutter speed in that I had a faster shutter speed in order to freeze the snow, and I had a slower shutter speed to get that blurry look on the snow. So two different shots. I just created these shots in order to explain to people that it is possible to create both images and both are correct. Nice to have this. But inclement weather, as we'd call it, is what created this image. Another part of inclement weather is mist. So the only reason this shot exists is because of the mist that was available on the day. And the mist diffracts the sunlight completely and creates this orangey glow. If you're wondering what the day actually looked like, so a couple of minutes later and in a slightly different angle, but it's the same deer, it just walked a little bit to the right. This is the kind of light you get. The mist is still a little bit in the background, but nowhere near as much as when it was in the thick of it. And so mist, which is bad weather, creates an amazing shot. And finally, I want to show you, this is not my shot, this is somebody else's shot called Max Vaughan, and it is probably one of my favorite shots. The falling snow and the fact that this was photographed during a blizzard, which is horrible weather, is what creates a magnificent image, together with the guy's talent and the shutter speed and all kinds of different things. But the inclement weather or the horrible weather really has a part to play. I get asked this question a lot, especially by people during the workshops and during the teaching sessions that I do. And a lot of people say, I don't photograph wildlife. I'd like to learn a little bit more about wildlife, but I don't photograph wildlife. And what's it mostly like? So if I had to relate it to anything, it's probably most like street photography. And I'll tell you why. In street photography, as in wildlife, you shoot under whatever conditions, whether it's light, weather, it doesn't matter. Whatever you get is whatever you got. Your subjects do whatever they want. So in street photography, you doing candid photos, and in wildlife photography, you photographing wildlife. So things do and act in a way that's unpredictable. And that is the biggest similarities between the two. The biggest difference is in street photography, you want it to feel like, and it's usually a subject, a human, you want it to feel like that person doesn't even know they're getting photographed. In wildlife, you want to feel like that person's part of the photograph. So when they look at your photograph, they go, wow, it looks like I was swimming with the ducks. That's it. So enjoy wildlife photography.